Only one undefeated team bit the dust this weekend, but there is plenty of movement in my college football top 25. But stick with me because later on I'll go over my top 5 Heisman contenders, which there was actually quite a bit of movement there as well. But what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below where we had that nice, beautiful football discourse. Let's go ahead and get into my college football top 25. First, discussing the teams who fell, which, starting with the Air Force, they were that one undefeated team that bit the dust this weekend. And they did so against Army, didn't put up much of a fight offensively. They just couldn't do nothing. They end up losing 23-3. And then Notre Dame, third loss on the season. They entered Death Valley against Clemson and were in a hole almost immediately in that game, had to fight themselves out of it, and just ended up coming up short. The comeback couldn't be realized. They go down 31-23, though. The remainder, they're 7-3 now. The remainder of their season, I feel like they're very likely to hop back up into the top 25 because they have Stanford and Wake Forest. And to be fair, Stanford's kind of playing some decent football right now. They just knocked off Washington State last night, so it should be a Notre Dame win, but I'm not gonna put it past Stanford to maybe cause the upset there. But Notre Dame entering bowl season, they should be 9-3. Let's go over my 5 teams that just missed the cut, and I want to start with Arizona. Big win against UCLA there in the Arizona Zoo. They win 27-10. They forced UCLA to go to quarterback 3 as there was quite a couple of injuries. One to Garbers, and then I think Dante Morris was concussed potentially relatively early after coming in to relieve Garbers. So like it wasn't good for UCLA, unfortunately. But Arizona has been a hot team. They really are a team you got to watch down the stretch here. I think now they're officially bowl eligible as well. SMU, man, I thought they had one of the easiest schedules in the American Conference, and it's kind of proven true. They are currently 7-2, beating Rice 36-31. Troy beats South Alabama 28-10. Their only losses on the season are Kansas State and James Madison, so that looks actually really good. And James Madison not eligible to play for the Sun Belt Championship, so there's a good chance Troy might be your winners, or at least they're going to be contended for it. Got Memphis here. They beat South Florida in a flipping shootout, 59-50. Memphis is now 7-2. They are kind of a sneaky team in the American Conference there. So I got 2 American Conference teams here that could challenge Tulane, but another team to keep track of is UTSA, who started the year pretty bad. They've gotten healthy and they're rolling. They're currently 6-3. But the last team I wanted to include in this just missed it is the West Virginia Mountaineers. They mollywopped the BYU Cougars 37-7. I feel like they're kind of a fringe top 25 team at this point, but let's go ahead talk about the top 25. And I got Fresno State as a riser, and they're here at 25 now, beating Boise State 37-30. Their only loss on the season was against Wyoming, and it's looking like they're probably going to compete. Probably good chance that they end up your Mountain West champions, or at least they're going to be in the championship game. And then you have Tennessee here, who just destroyed UConn. Everyone and their mom could have guessed it. They win 59-3. They are now 7-2, and they actually they will take on Missouri this upcoming week. I believe that will be in Mizzou as well. So that's going to be a very fun ranked showdown. You got Toledo. They beat Buffalo 31-13. It was like a Tuesday. You know, it's the MAC, man. They're playing in the middle of the week, but it was a snow game as well. Whew. Funny enough, on Tuesday wasn't even the best snow game. I think that had to go to, what was it, Central Michigan, and it's escaping me who the other team was. But I got LSU. They're coming off a tough loss against Alabama. We did the watch along for that game. They lose 42-28. I really think the turn-in moment for LSU wasn't when Jaden Daniels got hurt, but the deflection that became an interception. And then eventually Daniels does get hurt and it just kind of like just sucks the air out of the LSU team. So tough loss. To be fair, LSU, man, their losses this season have been against really good squads. Florida State, Ole Miss, and now Alabama. So it's hard to kick them out of the top 25. I know people are like, what about Notre Dame? They're a 3-loss team. They've had quality losses. And it's like, okay, Ohio State. All right. Louisville. We're going to be talking about Louisville a little bit later. But Clemson, not the prettiest one. Next, I have a North Carolina. They smacked Campbell. That was to be expected. I think the remainder of their schedule is actually fairly easy. And they should... trying to pull. Let's pull up that North Carolina schedule. UNC football sketty. Yeah, I mean that's not true. Actually, this is gonna be interesting. So Duke, that would have been a scarier game if it was earlier in the year. They're gonna be without Riley Leonard, so I'm not too worried about that. But Clemson's one to watch out for. They just knocked off Notre Dame in Death Valley. This one's going to be in Death Valley. And then NC State, not a great offensive team, but they got really good defense. They may be able to withhold that North Carolina team, but I think it's unlikely. So it's the Clemson game you're really looking at. So the schedule, not terribly hard, but there's easier schedules out there to finish the year. Going to my team at 20 here, it is going to be, in fact, Tulane. They actually moved down a couple of spots. Not the most impressive team, or at least not the most impressive win. They beat Eastern Carolina, ECU, 13-10. Like, this doesn't feel like the same Tulane team we saw in September. So I'm feeling that American Conference might be a little bit more wide open than what at least I once suspected. Liberty coming in at 19. They smashed Louisiana Tech 56-30. Man, they are running. I believe it's Conference USA that they're in. They are running the table there. We have James Madison, unfortunately, not eligible to win the Sun Belt yet. They will be next season. Not eligible to even be for a bowl, which is a shame. They are undefeated. They smacked Georgia State 42-14. This is a really good James Madison team, and it's such a stupid rule that if you're going from FCS to FBS play, you're ineligible to win your conference and to go to a bowl game for 2 years. That's such a stupid rule. So stupid. Oklahoma drops here to 17, losing to Oklahoma State right there at the wire. Dylan Gabriel on 4th down just comes up short of the sticks on a pass. And yeah, now they're coming off back-to-back losses. Kind of rough there. The Big 12 is starting to look a little wide open right now. And then I have Mizzou. I didn't want to drop Mizzou down. I didn't want to drop them down a lot, so I drop them one spot. They go into Athens and they play a competitive game against Georgia, one of the best teams in the nation. That's not a bad. It's not a bad loss to have. Their other loss being, what was it? Was it LSU? I believe it was LSU, another team that's been putting up a lot of points and whatnot. So, like Missouri, they're one of the better 2-win teams in the country. Going to number 15, I have Kansas. Beats Iowa State 28-11, 28-21, excuse me. Still no Jalon Daniels. Don't know if he will be back this season with back injury, but Jason Bean is getting it done. Again, one of the better backup quarterbacks in all of college football. They'll have Texas Tech next week. And then I got the Utah Utes. They come out after a very disappointing performance against Oregon, and they smack Arizona State. What was the final? 55-3. Oh, man. And you know what? They needed that, as now they head to Washington next week. So a lot of things could change in the Pac-12. Utah ends up beating Washington. So be on the look for that sucker. And then I got Oregon State getting things done against Colorado. They win 26-19. They basically just played their game like, hey, we got a really good defense, and we're just going to limit what y'all can do while controlling time of possession. That's what they do. That's their game. And they got it 7-2. Another good squad here. And then Louisville, no, I almost missed the other OSU team being Oklahoma State. Watch out. There's an Oklahoma State coming through. Like, holy freaking moly. Like, Ollie Gordon has had probably the best last 3-4 weeks. I mean, he didn't get to 200 rushing yards this week, but still not half bad as they take down Oklahoma. Big win. They are now sitting here at number 12 for me, and it's kind of wild. Like, the remainder of the game's super winnable. Central Florida, don't sleep on them. Might be probably their best game left, and then Houston, BYU. So there is a good shot that they end up ending the year 10-2 with a shot at the Big 12 championship game. Like, we could go back, look at this squad at the beginning of the year where they started the year with not really impressive wins, like only beating Central Arkansas by 14, only beating Arizona State by 12, and then they get mollywopped by South Alabama 33-7, and then they lose by 7 to an Iowa State team, which honestly they're playing well considering if you're not familiar with Iowa State circumstances. They had a bunch of players kind of get kicked off the team for gambling. So, like, they were kind of going through their stuff. And so it's like now they had 2 back-to-back tough losses, with one being not against a Power 5 team. And you kind of feel like, man, this Oklahoma State team's bad. And then they have a big win against, I think they were ranked at the time, Kansas State. They beat Kansas. So it's like, uh-oh, watch out. They've just been playing good football. Watch out for Oklahoma State. And then I got Louisville. Let's talk about Louisville. We're not going to talk long about Louisville. They blasted Virginia Tech, as they should, 34-3. They will play Thursday night against Virginia. Should be another win. And we could be talking about these guys as the team that will be taking on Florida State. Let's actually take a quick look at the remainder of Louisville's schedule this season. As they got Miami. That ain't a test. Nope, my Hurricanes are playing bad football. And then Kentucky is actually going to be interesting. They could lose that, but it won't cost them in the they can lose that and still make the ACC championship game. No worries. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. When you use promo code Broshmo when you sign up at Underdog Fantasy, they will match that first deposit up to $100 a dose. It is the best place to play weekly best ball, or my favorite player prop bets, higher or lower. For instance, my Monday night lineup here, I got Bryce Huff higher than a half a sack, Zach Wilson lower than 13 rushing yards, Gerald Everett lower than 3 receptions, Tyler Conklin lower than 27 receiving yards, and my favorite, Quentin Johnston higher than 31 receiving yards. Josh Palmer now on IR. At number 10, I have Ole Miss. Man, they beat the Texas A&M Aggies 38-35. They looked in control, but the Aggies just kept coming back, and the Aggies end up missing the game time field goal as time expires. So Ole Miss kind of gets away with that one. Next week, they will travel, I believe, to Athens to take on Georgia. So Godspeed, Lane Kiffin. No one's been able to do it yet. And then Penn State, they beat the tar out of Maryland in the fourth quarter in particular. And then they win 51-15. I believe it was 28 points they scored in that fourth quarter. Alabama probably with the biggest win this week, beating LSU. Good win for them. Yeah, I mean, again, turning point ends up being the tipped pass from Jaden Daniels. It turns into an interception, but I thought for the most part the offense looked really good. It feels like this offense is finding their identity. And it's like, hey, we're going to run the ball down your throats, and we got a quarterback that's got a big arm that if you're going to come in and try to play the run on us, we're going to hit you deep. So I really like that about Alabama. We were talking about, oh, man, is Alabama done? Are they cooked? Is the dynasty over? And now we're here looking at them like, oh, man, there's a good chance that they're going to have a shot at the college football playoff because they're going to be taking on what seemingly is probably Georgia in the SEC championship game. And then Texas, it takes overtime. I wanted to drop Texas this week, but I was like, they got the win over Alabama. That's just not fair. But they beat Kansas State in OT. And what's kind of wild is it's Kansas State went for the victory in overtime. They get to the 4-yard line on, what was it, 2nd and goal. And then just 3 straight incompletions to end the game for Kansas State. Rather, going for the win rather than going for the field goal to force it into double overtime. I don't hate the call, but being Texas, it feels like they're kind of tight-roping, man. It feels like that next loss could come at any stinking moment. They have TCU next week. That shouldn't be a loss, but who knows? Who knows? Oregon remains here at number 6. They beat the brakes off of California 63-19. Bo Nix had 6 touchdowns. We'll be talking about him later in our Heisman segment. But yeah, Oregon's like, nah, we want to see Washington again because we want to win that Pac-12. And there's a good chance that they can. But Washington, in a shootout, they end up prevailing. This was at the Coliseum. They win 52-42 against USC. Good win there. Ohio State started off really slow. Really thought about maybe dropping them at 5, but I'm just going to keep them here. I'm just going to kind of wait it out. Ohio State still has Michigan on the schedule, so maybe I'll wait to drop Ohio State then if they end up losing, of course. But they started out really slow against, honestly, a good Rutgers defense. Rutgers was actually leading going into halftime 9-7, and the game ends up being 35-16, but it was a lot closer than what that the final scoreboard would tell you. Then Florida State, Pittsburgh scored the first touchdown, and Florida State was like, hey, no Johnny Wilson, no Keon Coleman, no problem. We'll score the next 24 points. They beat Pittsburgh there. Florida State next week has the Hurricanes, the U. It's in Tallahassee. Don't embarrass my Hurricanes too much, please. Season already kind of hurts. Georgia wins a tough game against Mizzou. Honestly, I think might be their best win of the season. And they will now go to take on Ole Miss, fortunately, again, at home. And then Michigan remains number 1. They beat Purdue 41-13. Michigan doesn't cover this week, but I'm going to put this on Purdue. Michigan was a 30.5 point favorite, and Purdue literally scores a touchdown, I think, with a minute left in the game to cover. So, screw you, Purdue. Screw you. But let's go ahead and talk about my top 5 Heisman contenders. Listen, I know you love the NFL draft as much as I do, and you're going to want a nice hefty watch list of players during this college football season. Well, go ahead, check out my draft guide. You can purchase it for only $30 by Venmoing or PayPaling me. Links in the description. It's a one-time payment, and you get it for this whole draft cycle and forever and always, technically. It's a Google spreadsheet, so send me your email when you send the payment. I'll get you hooked up. You will see my current prospect rankings and big board, my full evals. And guess what? It updates throughout the whole draft cycle. So it's a great purchase, and it's a great way to support the channel. Starting off this list is Ollie Gordon, who has had a bonkers last 3 weeks. Didn't go over 200 yards this week, but still had 2 rushing touchdowns. He leads all of college football in rushing yards, and I kind of wanted to highlight him here. Some people might be saying, oh, what about Marvin Harrison Jr.? It's like he doesn't even lead the nation in receptions. That would be Malik Neighbors, or receiving yards. That's Malik Neighbors, and he's actually tied with quite a few people with 10 has touchdowns. He's having a good year, but I think Ollie Gordon might be the guy that warrants a shout out on this list. Big game against Oklahoma. And then at number 4, I have Jaden Daniels. He's moved down a couple of spots. Kind of sucks, man. This guy's playing really good football, and his team has 3 losses on the season. Part of that is the lack of defensive presence, but he had 3 total touchdowns in this game, and even the pick was like, it was a tipped ball, you know. But yeah, good on Jaden Daniels. He's playing really good football. If anything, you know, he's gonna help out his draft stock. And then at number 3, I have Bo freaking Nix, who had 6 total touchdowns this week against California. They're putting up numbers. They're putting up points because they're like, hey, we got our one. We're the best one-loss team in the nation, and when we get a second chance at Washington, we're gonna make sure they're a one-loss team as well. But Bo Nix playing good football. At number 2, it is JJ McCarthy. Didn't score a touchdown this week. Didn't need to. I think Blake Corum had like 3 touchdowns, but yeah, no, he goes for over 330 yards passing. He's had really good numbers on the season as Michigan stays undefeated. And then at number 1 remains Michael Penix Jr., throwing for over 250 yards and 3 total touchdowns in a shootout against USC. I think he is definitely kind of the Heisman front runner right now, with guys like McCarthy and Bo Nix kind of on the outside looking in. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing, and as always, until next time, be easy, my friends. Later.